Bismillah. Fellow Gambians, it's your brother and countryman Ousainou, the interim president of NAFAA political party. One may ask, what does NAFAA mean by cultural renaissance and economic sovereignty? You know, throughout human history, human beings have lived in communities and equally coexisted with nature. This has warranted the need for humans to adopt culture as a means of realizing their true being. According to the Oxford Dictionary, culture refers to the customs, beliefs, art, way of life, and social organization of a particular country or group, essentially encompassing the learned behaviors and values of a society, including their attitudes and modes of perception. This is the definition given by Oxford for culture. Judging by this definition and putting it in the context of the Gambian society, one can simply say that culture encompasses everything to do with our daily life, our sense of justice, our perception of everyday realities, including our political affiliation, our system of education, our religious affiliation, our patriotic values, those transversal skills like critical thinking, problem solving, having an entrepreneurial mindset, being time conscious, being productive, labor-wise, and emotional intelligence. And by this we mean self-awareness, self-discipline, self-regulation, be empathetic, as well as possess social skills. It is not an unknown fact that the land we call Gambia today was once inhabited by communities that had a vibrant yet well-organized social setup that not only promoted justice, good governance, health sciences, that prioritized preventive health care, creative arts, religion, and spirituality was also the order of the day. They also possessed a sense of identity that included the way they comported themselves. Their sense of identity could be felt even in the way their building architecture was made, in their diet, as well as in their inextricable relationship with nature and the environment. When we look at history, for many nations, there occurred a period of prolonged subjugation and colonization by foreign powers or even empires, which in many cases results in the imposition of the occupier's culture on the occupied. In our Gambian context, the British Empire occupied and colonized us. This colonization lasted for 149 years. And this is from 1821, and in 1970, we were finally allowed to become a republic. In reality, this means 149 years of cultural disruption, economic exploitation, social inequality, forced labor, political disenfranchisement, linguistic imperialism, environmental degradation, imposition of cash crop economies on us, whilst they looted our natural resources, artifacts, and stripped us of our sovereignty. As a consequence, the Gambia, like most colonies of the British Empire, was forced to abdicate her sovereignty in the areas of culture, agriculture, uniqueness in the way our society was governed in exchange for a colonial architecture that is extractive and paternalistic in nature. Unfortunately, this colonial architecture has over the years bred native collaborators who are no other than our government and elected officials. they are hell-bent on perpetuating the status quo. This colonial architecture and their local collaborators have reduced our beloved country to become dependents of food aid, although we are endowed with a rich agricultural history, about 500,000 hectares of arable land, abundance of irrigable water sources, both ground and surface water, and an average of 10 hours of sunlight daily. In conclusion, the Gambian is faced with two starkly contrasting choices. Number one, we can choose to embrace the status quo by aligning ourselves with the collaborators, that is, our present government and elected officials. And in so doing, we perpetuate institutionalized ills like corruption, nepotism, mediocrity, inefficiency, lack of vision and purpose, lack of patriotism and national identity, indignity suffered by Gambians, especially the most vulnerable, become the order of the day, the lack of adherence to the rule of law, violations of fundamental human rights, the rapid degradation of our once amiable social setup, disregard for our flora and fauna, and the depletion of our natural resources. On the flip side, Gambians can choose to educate themselves on the importance of realizing a cultural renaissance, as well as economic sovereignty, as has been achieved by many nations today, including some of the most advanced, like Japan, China, South Korea, India, and in the case of Africa, we have examples like Rwanda and Burkina Faso, who are taking great strides towards achieving this feat. The NAFAA project will provide Gambians the opportunity to experience a renaissance and transformation in our existence as a nation by modeling our development agenda in conformity with our cultural heritage, intrinsic norms and values, identity, and learned history. We will adopt a citizen-centered approach to governance that meets the needs and aspirations of Gambians. We will institute cross-cutting reforms that will set the Gambia on a pedestal of structural transformation. We will harness the overwhelming potential of our greatest resource, that is the Gambian people, by building the human capital. And in so doing, we will prioritize science, technology, engineering, and maths, STEM, as well as technical vocational education and skills training, TVET, to build the human capital required to engineer Gambia's ascension to the status of an economic powerhouse. We will adopt a more inclusive, long-term, sub-regional development agenda that promotes regional integration, expedite development, and promote regional peace and stability. Whilst it is prerogative to boot out the current NPP government in the 2026 presidential elections, electing NAFAA in power shall serve as the only option to break the colonial chains that have historically bound us, thereby setting us on the path of cultural renaissance and economic sovereignty.